If you care about craft beer at all, you will listen to my conversation with Greg Koch, the founder of Stone Brewing. He is a trailblazer. He is a disruptor. He has left the craft beer business better than he found it. And I ask him all the questions you want me to ask him. We first met we were doing a show called Drinking Made Easy that I did. It was a little bit of a rough time that we had in that. We kind of, I don't know if we butted heads, but whatever. So, and we were able to talk about that. We talked about founding Stone. We talked about his brewery in Berlin, which did not end well, and his exit from the craft beer business, and his next passion project, which is a graphic novel series and an album called Metal Warrior. So listen to this podcast in its entirety. It is incredibly interesting. We get into the weeds, we get into the roots, and it is a wonderful conversation with my friend Greg Koch. Well, okay, so here's an interesting thing. Like, this was going to be the last time, save one occasion, the last time you and I talked, I believe, was in San Diego when we shot Drinking Made Easy.
As far as I can recall.
Yeah.
Except for the most recent.
Except for the time when we got together recently. And when I left that Drinking Made Easy scene, I just wasn't sure how it went. I wasn't sure if you and I like jived, and I pretty much jive with everyone or can take everyone's temperature, but I wasn't sure if you were like upset or if you were being playful.
I could easily have been accused over the years of being a little self-serious.
Okay.
Like, I don't take myself that seriously personally, but often what I've been involved in, I can get pretty serious about that.
Okay.
And so when you came in, and then all of a sudden there was kind of some, tossing back.
Like, I'm a little bit to blame. Let's be honest.
Oh,
yeah.
A little bit? You were the cause of my angst at that moment.
You know what? I was. Okay, so that's clear. I agree with you.
We could expound on it, too, if you like. How many ways, and to what degrees.
How bad of a person I was to something that you had built.
But I figured that it was also part of your thing to kind of throw off the other person a little bit, to kind of create that little bit of edginess thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So when I saw that, I realized that was going on, even though I didn't like it. And because I have been able to get in my head a little bit in a given moment that, okay, this is not going to plan. I wanted to go this direction, and you're wanting to go that direction. Yeah. And it doesn't feel completely consistent to the overall look in a palace I built.
Right.
And, the genuflection, kind of should have been there, not to me, but to the beer.
Right. So I think that the reverence to the beer was there. I think the issue was that inside the issue is like, it's also my job to make something interesting, because as you were referring to yellow fizzy liquid that you were upset with, I don't know if you remember the scene or if you've seen it since, but like how like you were upset that you only had one choice growing up with beer, and the interesting thing I think about that is that when we are doing these drinking shows, we're talking about a liquid, and the only thing that really changes is the color or the vessel that it comes in, right?
Oh, so I would absolutely not agree on
from a TV perspective, from a visual perspective. Oh, yes. Yeah, from an experiential, if you're there, there's so much to it. So I have to find, what is this? How do I shoot this scene for 60 minutes and end up with 6 minutes that's interesting? Yeah. And so it's either like the story, it's a secret ingredient, it's something, it's fire, spectacle, whatever it is.
You're justifying your actions.
Well, what's funny is I was kind of thinking like, well, man, Greg was taking himself way too seriously, and like, he should have. And now that you say it, now that I hear your perspective, I'm like, yeah, I also kind of walked in like a clown, and maybe I didn't, maybe you and I should have had a talk first. But there's one piece of information that I'm forgetting. You had brought me up to the meeting. You had an interview beforehand, and you had this soap made from your beer, like a liquid soap. And you were doing a video and asked me if I wanted to go. So I went up with my buddy Steve, and we came in there. And I was like, I didn't understand. I said, I don't understand. Is it soap or is it beer? Like, can you drink it? And you said yes. And I said, really? And so I gave it to my buddy Steve. I said, try it. And he tried it. He's like, yeah, you can. I go, really? And then I took a huge gulp of it, and I started to cough. And then I had some water, and I was coughing, and bubbles were flying out of my mouth. Yeah.
Very cartoon style.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So I think maybe I was like, maybe I wanted to turn the screws a little bit.
Okay. So you at no point did you ever start floating Willy Wonka style and have a giant fan that you were maybe get shredded by?
No. Had that been a possibility?
Then no harm, no foul. Come on.
No harm, no foul. But
where would this be an issue? I have a confession here.
Yeah.
This is honest truth.
Yeah.
I have zero recollection of that.
Yeah, right. No, I would imagine.
Why would I not recollect me taking you up into a session before and having you drink soap?
Right.
Well, I mean, that feels memorable on its surface.
So true. So I've seen the video of it because it was somebody who's doing some interview or something like that, something that I don't know how seriously you were taking either. Of course, to invite someone you didn't know into it.
What?
But in the video, I coughed, and they circle in the video a bubble that floats out of my mouth.
That's good. That's viral. I mean, how is that not a meme today?
Because it was like 20 years ago. Because we were young and we look like different old men now. But you and I, which is very cool. I went to Lahaina a few weeks ago to do stand up for a bunch of fancy people for the Mackay Foundation. To raise money to help rebuild Lahaina. And Garrett had to go pick up his friend Greg at the airport. And I was like, I know that you guys are friends. And I didn't know that it was going to be you. And I was very excited when you got there. I was like, oh, this is cool. And of all the people that I could talk to at the party, for the hour that I was talking to people, I think I spent probably 40 of those talking to you and getting to know each other, which is like, that's the benefit if when we were doing Drink Made Easy, especially in that. And that era was a lot different. That was the first season. We were very pressed for time, and I was just going in trying to figure out what to do. And it's like, and it's a shame that that was when we met, and then we didn't get to even talk for 15 years or whatever it is later. Even though we share friends.
Little known thing, I actually did a pilot for Discovery.
Mm-hmm.
For a beer show, and where it was going to be, they wanted to do David Page of Page Productions, who created Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives,
mm-hmm.
everybody knows now with Guy Fieri.
Mm-hmm.
So he was tapped by Discovery to do a pilot. He tapped me to be the host of the show,
mm-hmm.
and he wanted me to essentially be a very Guy Fieri-ish.
Okay.
He was kind of really going to take that fingerprint, that model,
just
stamp it on
that worked, but it worked for other. Okay, got it.
Yeah, exactly. And I am, hey, no secret here now. I'm no Guy Fieri. It's just not my personality. I'm like, hey, look at that.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Put more cheese.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted something more in depth, but ultimately it didn't get picked up. I think we all have figured that one out since nobody knows who the hell I am. So. Gratefully, and so glad that did not happen, because I cannot imagine a career. Really, I think what you do as a job, for a lot of your shows is extraordinarily difficult, because you got to go in and turn on and all these different circumstances for bursts, and then you kind of probably get back to the hotel room or get back home after a stint. And you're like, where was I? What did I do? Who did I talk to? That person seemed cool, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't get a chance to actually do what we're doing now.
That's right.
It's so much more gratifying.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I started doing this podcast, and it was like, okay, who are we going to get for sponsors and all this stuff? And then I just, and I stopped doing it. And then I missed it because of the conversations that I was able to have. So you find someone that you like or you're interested in or you want to learn more about. And then what was I going to do? Like, hey, Greg, you live in Hawaii right now, in Maui, and you come and you're here. I'm like, hey, when you're here, let's go get coffee. And you'd be like, okay, what to talk about? What? Like, nothing in particular. Then it's just, that's a nice thing about having this podcast. It enables me to do this and sit down and have these talks. So I think at the end of the day, the problem and the previous discussion we had was my friend Steve McKenna. I'm just gonna throw it there. I'm gonna throw him under the bus like I can, and then we move on.
You were going him along. You were encouraged.
Yeah. And then you came to the show. You got to see my stand up. You got to see my stand up year 4. So I've been doing it. I think that was show. I mean, in fact, I know what it was. It was show 441. So that's 441 stand up shows I've done at breweries. And I'm glad you got to see me in the 400s. And the 100s, it was fine, but I learn a lot every single year. And so now I'm kind of proud of it. Before I thought I was doing well, and I look back and I don't think that I was.
Yeah, you cannot look back at your early work.
No.
It's just painful.
Sometimes I have no choice. It pops up in my feed. I'm like, oh, bro, don't say it like that. But so I did an introduction before this so people know who you are. You are, let's see if you agree.
Now, when I hear back that introduction, if I decide to tune into the finished episode, how am I going to feel with that?
Yeah. Well, I say it like this. In the craft beer world, you're a pretty big deal. You don't need to agree or disagree with that. I think it's just, I don't think anyone could or would dispute that. When did you start brewing? Did you brew?
No.
Okay.
No, because the quick of it is, in the late 80s at Al's Bar. Did you ever go to Al's Bar back in the day?
Where was it?
It is in downtown Warehouse District, L.A., what they now call the Arts District.
What year did it close?
I don't know. Later than I was still going there.
Okay.
I was going there earlier in the days. In the days, it was very punk rock, hole in the wall. It had nothing but a portal in the door. And
did you say the 80s?
Yeah, it was 80s.
Oh, and are you not the same age as me?
I don't think so.
Should we say it at the same time?
Well, my age are not going to change. So you're right, but it's not like
it's not a guess.
Liars.
Yeah, I'm 52. How old are you?
More than 52. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm 60.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Look, great. Congrats. Yeah, this is what you get. This is what you get. Especially when you were clean cut. Yeah. I thought we were of the same age. Well, that is another problem too, sir. I did not treat you the respect of an elder. Well, and that begins right now.
Add to the list.
Of my imperfections. Yes, exactly. Okay, so you were drinking.
And we're a little close to Christmas, so you should not be expecting a lot under your tree.
That's true.
It's cumulative.
So I was 8 years old, and you were drinking. Continue.
Yeah. So Al's Bar, hole in the wall, punk rock place, graffiti on the inside, all this kind of stuff. And I remember going there, 1987, and that's where I had my first epiphany because they had Anchor steam on tap. I didn't know it from anything else. And I was in college, and I was very cost conscious, as one would be. You get a 24-ounce wax paper cup.
Okay.
As one of your size choices, which per ounce. Being in college to know that was going to be better.
Right.
Anchor, I found out, was the only one that just didn't taste like, how's the curse level? I can go for it. It didn't taste like ass.
Yeah.
As you got down to that level.
That's worse that we go, then we're fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a podcast. You can do it everywhere.
That feels like a challenge.
Go for it.
Man, just not.
Okay. It tasted like butt. How dare you?
So,
or possibly is it one that actually tasted, right? It's the one that had flavor.
That's ultimately where I'm headed.
Okay, got it.
So it was actually a very epiphanous moment for me when I first had it because I was with a buddy and maybe, I don't remember exactly, maybe he said, here, you should try this one. And they only had 4 taps. So, I had that epiphanous moment where at that moment I realized all of my previous beer drinking years that had been stolen from me by the lies of the man telling me that other stuff was beer.
Yeah, okay.
And now I knew better.
Okay. You're upset in that moment?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had 2 reactions. One, I was excited about this beer I had in my hand. And the other was, I was fucking pissed off because I really felt like clearly I had been lied to. Why had I not been given this knowledge that this beautiful thing existed?
Mm-hmm.
And I really, I mean, I'm a beer enthusiast.
Yeah.
I really thought it was a true thing of beauty. So that was the first spark that led me ultimately down the path. Now, it was 87.
87.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
But it was not a fast path at that time because...
When did Anchor Steam start?
Well, Anchor Steam... So Fritz Maytag bought Anchor in '64. Actually, the year that I was born.
Okay. Yeah. I met Fritz that same season. As a matter of fact, I probably met him like 3 days before I met you.
Okay.
I was much nicer to him.
Yeah.
Continue.
Oh, I would.
That's why you should be.
You could be anything you want to me.
Yeah.
But if I heard you were not nice to Fritz, now we're not serious.
Yes. What's the other guy on that run? Charlie up in Seattle.
Oh, Charlie Finkel.
Finkel, yes. Yeah. Another, yeah.
Merchant de Vin and importer of specialty Belgian beers, as well as the
wearer of a bow tie.
Yes, and Pike
Peak. Yeah.
Pike Place Brewing.
Place Brewing, yeah.
I think they just call it Pike Brewing, but
you may be right. Yeah. Yeah. So wow, that's pretty early on. So, and when did you do something about it? Or how did you do something about it?
Well, that's just it. I didn't know there was, I didn't still have a concept if there was something to do about it.
Okay.
It just felt like a complete anomaly to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have had no idea how to follow up on it. Yeah. So just a little anecdote. Years later, I got to know Bob Brewer, who was the sales guy for Anchor for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And great guy. And I told him the story because it's not unusual for many of craft brewer to have had their epiphany with Anchor Steam.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, at that time, 87, okay, in L.A., there were 3 places that had Anchor on tap. 3.
Wow, okay.
So this was more of a rarefied special moment than I even understood.
Mm-hmm.
And that was spark happened. It's really the vagaries of the universe and the serendipitous moment and all those things combined. So that really it didn't turn my life around at that moment, but it did sort of open, okay, now if I can encounter or if I find a beer that I'm not familiar with, I am definitely going to go for that one.
Mm-hmm.
I am not going to go for what I thought might have been my favorite beer at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ran into I made a buddy. I was taking flying lessons. He was my instructor. And after we would fly, we'd go grab a beer. And he was kind of into microbreweries and brew pubs, and this was in L.A. And so I started going, and then I started being like drinking from a fire hose.
What were you doing professionally at that point?
My music rehearsal studios.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I built and own music rehearsal studios. The first opened late '89. I still own and operate 200 today. I know nobody knows this.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was my first business, and it's still operating.
Oh, okay. It's amazing. And how many of those are in L.A.?
All of them. They're all in one building in downtown L.A.
Wow.
In the warehouse district, which is where I started.
Wow. Okay, got it. And it's still being used for that same purpose?
Every band you can possibly imagine, every musician you possibly imagine has been through there at some point. So, going way back to the day, Blind Melon wrote their first album there, wrote their album. And
when you knew someone that you were interested in was going to be there, would you be there? Or were you there?
So there are 200. So it's what's called a 24-hour lockout system. So basically, I would rent the rooms to bands month to month.
Okay.
And then they could rehearse anytime. They couldn't live there technically, but they could rehearse anytime in 24-hour periods. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't be uncommon to go there at 4 a.m. and hear the odd room, sound emanating. And so I had many of my tenants were there on a functional, permanent basis.
Mm-hmm.
That month to month to month, they could leave all their stuff there.
Got it.
So instead of like the very typical style of you roll up to an hourly place, you got to park as close as you can. The drummers, making 12 trips. Mm-hmm. The guitar players making 4 trips with every amps and etc.
So they're all
stuff set up.
They're all soundproofed.
They're all soundproof.
And are they white?
They're deadened.
Okay, got it. Yeah, and then of course, and then pre-wired, or is it just like everything's there?
All their equipment.
Okay.
So I provided the room.
Okay.
And they set up their equipment however they liked. A lot of bands would share the room. So you'd kind of get into, let's say, a 16 by 19 room. That would have been a very common size.
Mm-hmm.
And you have sort of, angled it from corner to corner. One band's set up here and one band's set up there, and they would trade off nights or trade off times of day just to save on rent money.
And this is an inconsequential question, but like, what was the furniture situation? Were there
none?
So okay.
I gave a room.
Got it.
So if they wanted a couch in the room, they would.
If they knew they'd be there long enough, they wanted to bring stuff in like that, then they would. Got it. Okay. All right. Wow, that's very interesting. Okay.
And you just go in, plug in, and play, and again, the number of bands and every genre, everything.
Mm-hmm. So you were okay. So that's what you were doing at that time.
Because I was in the music, I was interested in being in the music industry. In fact, I was in the music industry. I then managed some bands that rehearsed with me. I helped some bands get some record deals. I did some small amount of production and doing demos, and so on.
Okay.
And I was a songwriter. I was a wannabe guitar player. Before that, earlier in the 80s, I went to the Guitar Institute of Technology in Hollywood. And it would be I had rock and roll dreams.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we're going to put a pin in going down that because that's a good segue into what we have here. So explain, you were a little upset with me in Hawaii that I don't have a record player. And
it's not,
I'm sorry.
Just disappointed.
Sure. That almost hurts worse. Because I can't argue.
With the email.
Hey, Tyler, in my back, I thought I had my blade here, my backpack out there. Oh, I got one. You can always have a blade on you, man.
Oh.
So tell me what is, I have your letter here. Why don't you tell me, I don't need to read what you wrote. You can tell me what I have.
Yeah, don't, because I might have said something nice. And we don't want that on the record.
Let me fill it to catching up.
No. That sounds so just gross right now.
It's just not you. I know you didn't like this. Okay. Yes. Please tell me what it is. So this is Metal Warrior, and if you interrupt me, I'm just going to start talking, and if I say anything, that'll be wrong.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to interrupt you right off the bat. So basically, this was conceptualized as a lot of what ifs all put together. What if we created this graphic novel series with these 4 primary characters? What if those 4 primary characters were, from another part of the universe, galaxies, away, etc.? And they were sort of very interesting heroes, but with really long backstories. In fact, with the leader, he's got a very dark backstory.
Okay.
Then he spent part of that backstory. He spent time on Earth, and he fell in love with metal music. It helped in his catharsis of his changing from sort of the proverbial dark side to the good. And so they are a metal band. And they travel the 4 galaxies, or the 5 galaxies, actually, and play metal music to bring it to the peoples and save people. They fight righteous battles, play metal music.
And this is all coming from your brain?
It's collective. So this was conceptualized. I conceptualized this, and I work with a graphic artist. You can see the graphics are just, like, stunning.
Yeah, they're amazing. And by the way, are these lyrics that I'm looking at?
Yes.
Okay. So
you're looking at the booklet that's inside of the double album.
Okay.
That has a graphically intense page for each one of the songs, and with the lyrics, and it's got things like you're looking at, which is the descriptor of the band members.
Yeah, I'm looking at this guy and his what do you call this? Like it's card.
Yeah, it's collector's card.
Collector's card. Got it.
Yeah. So essentially, this band, okay. It's a parallel, but it's not a parallel. Like Gorillaz, right? Gorillaz was a virtual band.
That's when I saw this page, like literally, I thought Gorillaz right as you were saying it.
Was it earlier? Okay.
Yeah.
And usually, the intergalactic mosh pit is not what evokes that, but
I don't know. There's a certain character that jumped out. Yeah. Some of the Gorillaz stuff, like my wife won't watch their music videos because it scares her. So I thought this was
she should not come anywhere close. No, this is, yeah. She would find many aspects of. There's lots of blood and gore and battles because this band exists to fight righteous battles and play metal music together.
Dude,
Yeah.
That is
so that is one hell of a mosh pit. I want to be in that mosh pit.
The fact that this is a record, I mean, that's awesome.
So what you have in your hands is a special limited edition picture disc version. But people can listen now. We've released 4 singles so far.
Okay.
And we got videos on YouTube.
Got it.
Our last video just got cleared for MTV, so it's going to go in.
Is it an animated video?
It's in the case of the video, it's AI. We don't use AI for any of the music or the graphic novels.
Okay.
We have used AI in the videos.
Got it. So is the video kind of a mindfuck?
It is.
Okay.
You should check it.
No, I'm going to.
Badass.
I'm going to. So there's 4.
Jared did it.
Is this giving Jared credit or blaming Jared?
Yes.
Jared.
Is that the same thing?
Jared took, and here's our, and this is coincidence and other friends. So Garrett Marrero, who owns Maui Brewing Company and Modern Times, is a very good friend of you and I. And then also another very good friend of us is Jared Cotton. And Jared, when he called me one time, when he called me one time or emailed me, I got on the phone call. It just seemed like, yeah, okay, here we go. And I get these calls all the time. He wanted to dude, I love 3 Sheets. I want to bring it back. I got this opportunity, and I was like, okay. And like, I had learned, like from a manager I don't even have anymore. He just said, just keep saying yes. Just keep saying yes until the moment you say no, and you can always just see where it goes. And Jared calls. He's like, I don't know, make 3 Sheets. We'll bring it back, and we'll do it with this new network with these brewery guys. I'm like, okay. And because they had produced Brewdog was the name of the show. Brewdogs.
Yeah, with the S on the end.
Yeah.
Dogs.
And then when that what was the channel it was on? Esquire. And then when that network went off the air, they decided to, rather than, which might have been the better move, making a YouTube series, they decided to make a network to bring people to, and they ended up doing this. So I worked with Jared and I worked with Chris over at Red Tail, the production company, and they were like, just could not be more pleasant the entire time. Pleasant and smart and professional and creative.
Yeah.
And it's also
just fires.
Yeah, yeah. And the cool thing too is like, so like Chris is very empirical, data driven, technical, and then Jared's very imaginative and whatever, and I think he brings Chris up and Chris brings him down, and I think they're great. So yeah, so yes, the fact that Jared's part of this is exciting, and I'm excited that I can go and watch 4 videos.
Yeah, he was he did the last 2.
Okay, got it.
But the last one is really coming into its own as far as what he does with them and how he's able to manipulate the AI, because the amount of human hours in this is insane.
Of course, yes, exactly.
It's nuts.
Yeah, you can't just set AI loose and yes, exactly, with something that you don't want.
Right. So we were getting to real storytelling, so it was a cliffhanger video, waiting to the next single, which will be dropping.
Okay.
Shortly.
Okay.
And that's the story will be to be continued.
Got it. So if I go there, like presently, there's 4.
Yeah, so
I won't know the end of the story. There's no way for me to find it out. If I have this right now?
No, you cannot.
This doesn't give me any advantage over knowing the ending.
You have so many advantages over everybody else. Be grateful for what you have. I haven't read this. I regret it what you don't.
I am grateful. I feel like I have some power in my hands. Okay, so this is 2 albums here?
Yes.
I want to see the other one because the first one was so.
Yeah, they're actually designed to overlap. So you could those 2, the images are overlapping images. So they kind of like a third.
I see.
One larger image.
If I bring this one in?
Mm-hmm. But don't scratch it.
No. I mean,
you don't have a turntable, and you are putting.
Well, I'm going to fire. Oh, I see.
Fuzzy with the whole,
Am I not handling records correctly?
It should be the edges are.
Well, I have to match them up. Okay, here we go. I'll just show those of people who are watching on. They also match up on the back as well.
They do.
I'll wipe these down. I'm so sorry, Greg. I don't know how
now I'm starting to get that cringe moment back and way back. 20 years.
I'm starting to remember.
Really coming all home right now.
I remember feeding you soap now.
No, No, I'm just not. I don't remember feeling the soap still, but I'm feeling like I want to do soap for some reason, and I wasn't putting my finger on it.
Well, I think you nailed it. Yeah. That's why I'm not invited home for Christmas.
Yeah,
okay.
No, but I would sniff everything before you put it in your mouth that I give you for your appetizer.
Yeah, well, I'm going to treasure this, and I'm going to find a record player. All right, so then it comes with these, which are the store. Okay, so
well, it doesn't come with it. Everything is individual, so you can just listen to you could just listen to a song. I mean, we're on Spotify and Apple Music and the streamers. And
how would people? What would they type in to find it? Metal Warrior.
Yeah. So here's the search term I would suggest: Metal Warrior Firestorm.
Okay.
Because there are some, depending on your search history, you may or may not come up with the right. Anyways, Metal Warrior Firestorm. Search that on Spotify, search it on Apple Music, search it on YouTube. Or you can go to metalwarrior.com, which is obviously our URL.
Oh, got it.
Or Metal Warrior Official for Instagram, and on
and this is a passion project.
Yeah.
Just like the beer was at some point.
Well, the beer was a complete passion project. It was, What
were your expectations when did you start Stone?
96.
Were you doing other beer stuff before that, or was that it?
That was the first endeavor into the beer industry.
Okay. And what were your expectations?
I wanted to be able to keep the doors open. That was my, we started off. I wanted to. I literally. And this, I think saying this today sounds perhaps weird and maybe even disingenuous. I hope not. But I thought we were starting too late in 1996 to ever make a mark.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
I just didn't think we would make a mark.
And was it in Escondido?
Yeah. Well, no, it was in San Marcos, right next door.
Am I correct in saying this, that because I remember when I did 3 Sheets in 2006, and if I would have started a brewery in Los Angeles in 2006, I think I would have been this first brewery in Los Angeles to open since Prohibition.
No, because there was Gorky's back in the day.
There was one?
There were several.
There were? Craft breweries?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't listen up to me. Great.
And, like even, what was it, Wolfgang Puck that had his Eureka Brewing that opened and closed under much fanfare in the 80s.
Wow.
Late 80s, early 90s.
Out here.
In L.A.
Where'd you grow up?
So I was born Southern California, grew up small town Ohio.
Okay.
And then I moved back out to Southern California to go to music school in, between my sophomore and junior year of college.
Which was where? Here?
Ohio State first 2 years, and then I finished up at USC.
Got it. You had something calling you back out here.
Yeah.
And when you started Stone, because you have a lot of milestones there, I think too. Because at one point, I don't want to get ahead of it. Because at one point, I think you cracked a nut into distribution, and I don't know the exact details of that. But so you started off. When did Arrogant Bastard? When did that come out? Was that a big thing?
It became a thing.
Okay.
Nothing was a big thing right off the bat.
Okay.
So we opened our doors July 23rd, 1996.
Wow. Okay.
So halfway through 96. So it had been a month when Ballast Point started.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was, and it was just a year after AleSmith, and, there was Pizza Port had been running as a brew pub, for a little while. But anyways, there's sort of that class of, and, so we didn't release Arrogant Bastard until November 1 of 1997. So a year and 4 months, plus minus.
And it wasn't the big explosion that I would like to think.
Well, I mean, it was a big explosion, sort of like as in a cherry bomb would be a big explosion. It was our first production run was 100 cases.
Mm-hmm.
So we sold out of that 100 cases. Mm-hmm. But how, at 12 bottles, because they're 22-ounce bottles, 12 bottles times 100, that's how 1,200 bottles, how big of an explosion can 1,200 bottles in a marketplace make?
Got it, yeah.
So it was like but it was a spark to something more. So we made more, it sold out again, made more, sold out again. And as we were getting there, learning how to like sort of keep in stock and increase our brewing. All the while growing our flagship beer at the time, which was Stone Pale Ale.
Oh, okay.
That was our very first beer that we produced. And, for, I'd say about 5 years, I'm going to give or take, Stone Pale Ale, Arrogant Bastard Ale, and Stone IPA were all kind of neck and neck in volume.
Okay. Was Arrogant Bastard, what was the IBU of that one?
Oh, we call it unclassified at the time, because we
can tell me.
My whole shtick, and I can talk about it a little bit more now because I don't have to maintain the shtick, and I actually like the shtick, and I believed in it. You just kind of live it, breathe it.
Yeah.
But we never ever described or talked about Arrogant Bastard. You only talked about what it meant, how it felt. The emotional, the braggadocio, bravado side of the equation, but never like, okay, here's what the SRMs, which is how color is measured in beer. This is not what didn't talk about SRMs. We didn't talk about the malt. The only way you could talk about the malt and hops were to say it's unbalanced towards the malt while being simultaneously unbalanced towards the hops.
This is okay. This is all like, this is stuff that they hope to teach in marketing these days, when you know what I mean. Like everyone's on there saying like Red Bull. It's not about. They never talk about the drink. They talk about the lifestyle and all that stuff. Like that's some pretty ahead of
But I want to stress though, and maybe this is just for my own sense of feelings of purity here, is that it was all. Really, that's how I felt about it. I didn't say, okay, I'm going to adopt this shtick. Like it came from, because I came from rock and roll, right? I was in rock and roll and I was in music.
Yeah.
And it was just like writing a song. I mean, you could talk about the notes in the song. You could talk about the chord progression, but that does nothing for how the song makes you feel.
Very good point. It's a very good point. Yeah.
So I thought it was too reductionist to talk about IBUs or hop varieties or any of this stuff.
It's also stuff that people don't know, or care about. Whoops.
It's all bullshit because, hello.
He's a special boy. That's Pokee.
Yeah, hey, Pokee. So as Pokee and, knows, you talk about your flavor descriptors on the back of a bottle of wine or in a wine menu or, any menu. It all just only goes so far.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, yeah, I guess I can get some tobacco notes out of this or some dark fruit or some things like that. But
yeah,
really, you can have two, I'll look at the wine for a moment. You can have 2 glasses of wine. You have the exact same descriptor. And yet one's going to be freaking epiphanous and the other's going to be, it's all right. And the descriptors will be accurate for both of them.
But was so yeah, and again, this all makes a lot of sense, especially in like in hindsight of me. Lucky really wants some credit for what we have going.
I like the little slim out on the couch there.
Yeah, he's like, hey man, well, are you guys talking about me? If you're not, you should be.
I like
that. So Pokee, come on, man. We're having a pretty intense conversation here. All right, you want to hang out?
Just sit there and look pretty.
Yeah, exactly. Look pretty or just look like that. What are you doing? So what was the Arrogant Bastard? Okay, was it the most aggressive beer available at that time? Were people doing things like that?
On a functional basis, it was.
Okay.
I can't look across, the breadth of the craft brewing industry and say it was the most this or that.
Yeah.
But it was certainly, an anomaly of the time.
Okay.
7.2% American Strong Ale, which it was the progenitor of that style. Nobody was making that style of beer prior. It was the only one. So it was an outlier, anomaly, or whatever you wanted. And of course, within the way the presentation of the label and the way I wrote the back and all that, it just kind of all went together. It just felt right.
Right. And the name. What did the name mean?
So I would say, I didn't name the beer, that I was simply the first person who learned what the beer was already named. I look at it from a long view. It has been named after millennia. Yeah, beer has existed since the dawn of time.
Okay.
We were just the first ones to have the lucky happenstance to put the elements together at the same time.
Got it.
To have, seen one.
Yeah. Hey, did you have any issues with the TTB with putting the word bastard on it?
No, but we did get banned in Ohio and one other state that I don't remember.
It's a dream. We were banned.
I did not want to use it, and I did not use it.
Oh, what's that?
The banned thing. I didn't say banned in Ohio, which would have been true.
Right.
But not use that in the marketing, because to me that felt too, I don't know, just like
I know what you're saying.
And talk about the quality of the beer, the character of it, all these things.
Right.
And it just said, "Oh, look, aren't we bad?"
Yeah.
Kind of.
Right.
And I was uninterested in it.
Because if you're really bad, you don't have to tell people you're bad. You're just bad. Yeah.
We weren't bad. We were fucking good. We were too good for you. Kind of.
I'm like, oh, no, you're right. No, you're right. You're right. And again, it was the name. It was the name that like, it was good. I mean, obviously, the name that it knew that it was, because it just, it became something that people would like seek out, right? So someone on the East Coast is like, here's this thing that's going on in California in the beer scene. It's called Arrogant Bastard. And you're like, how do I get it? I promise you, and I'm sure this is the case, I promise you people came out to do a pilgrimage to find it and come and taste it.
Oh, there was this one guy, it was great. He would make pilgrimages every 6 months from Idaho, which we didn't get into distribution in Idaho for years later. He'd come with a pickup truck, and he would fill up a pallet, and he would buy a pallet of beer, and he'd take it back home, and that would be a beer for him and his friends.
Oh, wow. Okay, got it. Not necessarily to sell it, but it was for him.
Well, it would have. If he did sell it, that would have been. Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't think he did.
Right.
You just thought it not functional.
Yeah.
But we had fans like that, and that was very cool.
I mean, it's
just a different era. You can't imagine who would drive, across states to pick up a beer. Now, I can understand if you're going to go pick up some Pliny, Pliny the Younger during, the Pliny days.
Sure.
Yeah, you make a pilgrimage to Russian River. So actually, there are some parallels today.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there are, but
there aren't a lot.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. At that time, it was more unique. There's people now. Craft beer is a thing where people are dedicating their lives to going around and chasing the releases and stuff like that.
Less so today, unfortunately.
I think
that was a fun time.
It's funny when you say that. As I was saying it, I was thinking that I was like, yeah, that was more of the time. And then when did you guys when did you start distributing?
Well, we had to self-distribute from the very first day because none of the wholesalers were interested.
So was that was allowed?
Yeah. So in California, you could brew and self-distribute.
I didn't know that. So today. Oh wow. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's many breweries that self-distribute.
That's as a state, that's unique. Is that right?
It actually was part of the legacy of the wine industry. So the wine industry, because it's so powerful in California, had lobbied for lots of privileges. Mm-hmm. And so then we all just went in there, and it happened to some degree before we started as a company, but the beer industry kind of went in there and go, okay, let's take this legislation, replace the word wine with the word beer, and ask for only just the same thing. We don't want something special or different. We just want the same privileges as the wine industry. And the legislators had a hard time kind of pushing back against that.
Right. Just put / beer and then we're good. Yeah. Wow. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
We actually felt it was years later because you couldn't do a beer dinner. You actually had to charge them for your time. So if I was going to go conduct a beer dinner, I'd have to bill the bar, Joe's Bar and Grill or whatever, $100 for my appearance fee. A winemaker would not have to do that.
Oh, wow.
And so that was one of the things we later got parity for. And I can go too far in the weeds on this kind of.
I mean, but you did a lot of it's not often that the groundbreaker gets to celebrate the ground that they broke. You know what I mean? I mean, because then in the end, I don't know the timeline of this, but then you were also distributing. You became a distribution company.
Yes. So after a few years of self-distribution, around the time that the other wholesalers in Southern California, specifically San Diego, were becoming interested, we decided hey, we actually think we're able to do a pretty good job. We had direct communication with all of the receivers in the stores and grocery stores, with the staff at the bars and restaurants, and we had that personal relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And we were the only fully refrigerated beer distribution in San Diego. And ultimately, we decided we thought we did a pretty good job, and we liked it, and we'd gotten past the hump of actually bleeding money, because that was almost killed us in the beginning. So okay, now we're a beer wholesaler.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're going to be a beer wholesaler and we're a craft beer wholesaler, well, let's act like one. And what does that mean? That means, well, let's call up the folks at AleSmith.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call up the folks at, other breweries and say, hey, we respect you. We think you make really great beer. You're doing it out of the back of your van like we were, but now we've actually got trucks and they're refrigerated and we got more of a system that we built up. We think we could do a better job with your beer than you're doing with it. We think we can actually make you more money because you're spending, because we've been there. We knew exactly what it was like. And we knew if you were out there making deliveries with your one brand and you had 100 accounts, chances are you were maybe on good month breaking even with that endeavor. Mm-hmm. And we could take it, and we could take that whole headache and management. And so we got people on board, and we developed, from the tip of the spear to, the full spearhead. Mm-hmm. And so on, as we developed a real portfolio of awesome brands.
How many brands were in there?
Well, ultimately today, I mean, it's, dozens and dozens. I am retired from Stone Distributing these days. So
are you retired from Stone?
Yeah.
Stone all.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm retired.
Okay. Got it. Not even on the board or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
They thank me very much for my time, and said, do come by for a beer from time to time.
What? I don't know what that means. They could read into that so much. Well, when did that happen?
So I retired from Stone a little over a year ago, 2 years ago, and from Stone Distributing a little over a year ago.
Okay. Sorry.
That is some...
He has some breathing issues. Yeah.
What's the name again?
Pokee.
Pokee, I want you on my next metal album.
You got it, brother. I will send you all. We just have to hold it up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's...
So he was born with umbilical herniation. So he had a little split right here. And over time, it grew. And he was a kitten. We had taken him in as a kitten. And so we were not able to... you couldn't put a kitten under. It's a risky thing. And so the herniation started to grow, meaning the split in his,
internal cup. Huh?
Yeah. What keeps everything in. Okay. And so at some point it was like this big, and then his organs started to come out. They were kept within the skin, but he had like this big ball.
I've had hernias, so I know what you're talking about.
How far it can go.
Yeah. Sounds more dramatic than I would do.
It probably was. So he's a kitten. And so at some point, I mean, he had so much stuff outside of it. We had to be very careful with it. And I assume it was mostly intestine. But then, so his, because of that, his diaphragm, so like his chest rib cage did not grow. And so when he was old enough, they had to go and split this, make this bigger, put it all in, do all this kind of stuff. And so he now, like, his diaphragm has to work twice as hard. And, he's got his nose is off to the side. So he doesn't know. He still goes around terrorizing the other cats. He doesn't know that he's special or unique. Yeah. But anyway, yes, we'll talk about some sort of deal. He's ASCAP, so we'll have to talk about whatever.
I liked that cat from the very first moment, but even more.
Good
to the story. I'm like,
sorry. Well,
gotta take care.
They gave him 2 years, and then and I think he's 5 at least. So 4 or 5, something like that. So yeah, he's doing great. So I don't know if it's something that people know or want to talk about, but I have 2 more questions, if you will indulge me. And if you don't, I understand that. But I think some of the stuff we talked about with the Berlin thing, mm-hmm. and then with you leaving, whatever you're comfortable talking about, because I think people are interested in it. I mean, I know I am.
Well, I know for, very long time, mm-hmm. I would pound my fist and say, I will never sell out. And I said it direct to, anybody that would listen. Mm-hmm. And I know in some interviews of print media that I would say, I will never sell out as he pounds his fist on the table.
Yeah. As the walls are coming down around him or something like that. The fire. Yeah, exactly.
Because I wanted so very much for that to be true.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I wanted that to be true. I wanted it to, be there every day till my last days.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was kind of, it was surprising to me in many ways, although now I can have the benefit of hindsight. I can see exactly all the trajectories, on how, I'm so glad I went to
Well, you also had again, hindsight, the benefit of seeing the Ballast Point thing play out in sort of just a weird way that it did when they, we're going to get maybe public and sold and whatever. But just seeing, how messy I guess it got too.
Well, yeah, but
and the devaluation of the brand.
Well, that was heartbreaking because that was a great brand, and then it and I think it still got many. So I don't mean to say it's not now. I don't want to make any comments like it's none of my damn business.
Sure,
but
you sticking to your guns, seeing something happen, and again, I'm going to put these words out. They don't have to be. They're not yours, but you going yeah. See, that's why I'm independent. That's why I'm holding on to this. I want to keep the purity. But then I guess you have fought a lot of battles. A lot of them psychological battles, legal things like, changing legislature and the things that you've done, becoming in distribution. These things were not easy.
Doing Miller Coors.
Yeah. So it's at some point, it's just it gets to a point that you just feel you did it, right? what were you going to do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just became time.
Mm-hmm. And so right before that, which maybe added to it, was Berlin.
It didn't help, but it was So, but on the other hand, that wasn't really part of the ultimate equation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
it had to run you down.
I don't really have I'm not a big hindsight guy. I'm a forward windshield. I'm not a rearview mirror guy.
Okay. I'm very rear view. No, I'm not. I'm not.
Okay.
No, I can't. I couldn't be. That makes
as long as it's not a euphemism, I think I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I got you. Well, for people who don't know what we're talking about, let's just paint that picture really quick. So you opened a brewery in Berlin.
Yeah, a
brewery hotel. Yeah.
No hotel.
Okay.
One would have felt like that would have been a reasonable equation there. Okay. As you walked in, you're like, oh my God, where are the rooms? Because this place is massive.
Right.
So we took a historic 1901 gasworks building in the outside edge of Berlin.
Okay.
And I decided when I fell in love with, that's part of my problem. I'm a romantic.
Uh-huh.
I'm very much a romantic. And I fell in love with this facility, and I just saw all this potential and possibility and awesomeness.
Yeah.
And so I acted on it. And, ultimately, long story short, it was too big, too soon, too bold, too soon.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a little too far out over our skis.
Okay.
So we built this massive facility with the ability to brew for all of Europe. And we were distributed in 17 countries in Europe.
What year did it?
So that would have opened in 2016.
Okay.
And we ended up closing it in 2019 and selling it to BrewDog.
And, what was the reception? Again, this is some stuff that you and I talked about at the party, but what was the reception from Germany?
Well, the reception from anybody that gave a shit was phenomenal. We had people coming from it was just really incredible.
Was it then mostly younger people that accepted it?
Well, here's the thing. If you were going to ask me if I'm going to specify exactly what was the reception from Germany, it would have been what reception?
Okay.
No, but here's the big conception or misconception. And I'm going to not pull any punches here. So if you're German or a German, sit down. Or if you've been to Germany, just sit down, because reality is maybe going to be a little... Okay. Germans, no matter what the conception is, do not care about beer. I will repeat that. Germans, by and large, the average German, you're always going to find some Germans that really know and care and love and like us, and they'd be like, we live in the same world with each other. But by and large, just like Americans in so many parts of the country that are buying their 24-pack or 36-pack suitcases, they don't really care about beer. They may identify as a beer drinker, and that's kind of where it ends. So a German will argue vehemently and defend their local brewery, adamantly until it comes to their buying patterns.
Okay.
And then they buy the cheapest thing in the Getränkemarkt, in the beer store. And they will defend German beer. German beer is the best, right? Okay, why? Because it's German. Okay, why? And why is it? Because it's the best. Yeah. You're like, okay, well, this conversation might be very probably. Okay, so you're telling me German beer is better than any beer in the world? Yes. Okay. So, German beer is, by the way, Germany is the cheapest country in Western Europe for beer. Yeah, it's like water. We got everybody's. Okay. By the way, my buddy I stayed in LA last night. Is Germans.
Okay.
Just for some of them are my best friends.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I can say this because I'm friends with the German. Yeah.
And then I said, because I got so many of these conversations over the years. Okay, so, and Zane, as I would say to them, take your time. Name me anything in the world that you can think of where you have the cheapest and the best at the same time. Please take your time.
And then it's,
You can't get there.
No, only if it's the only.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll get there. And the reason, so why has this happened? So it is the conception of German beer from the 1970s when it was hands down the best beers in the world. And their beer was very different. All these same brands that you know today, they were different. And I've seen all the brewing records. The Northern German Pils style, for just one example, was in the 40s in the IBUs. Today, it's in the low 20s in the IBUs. They, what Lidl is or Aldi, of course, in the U.S. we have Aldi's now. Lidl, Aldi, two grocery stores that are hyper price competitive. And they have driven down pricing over decades. And the German beer industry, as consumption started to decline, historically in Germany for beer, people drank less. They no longer drank during the middle of their, work day. You don't have beer breaks anymore at the car factories. This was a thing. Literally, breweries would close when the car factory changed their policies. So what happens when you now have too many breweries, too low a volume? That's increased competition, increased price pressure. You have price pressure from these low-cost grocery chains. So there's intense pressure of competition and pricing. What happens? You start to have to lower your pricing. If you don't lower your pricing, guess what? That shelf spot, that goes to the other brand that did. And these big corporations will really put their thumb down on these breweries. So they would either go out of business or they would lower the pricing. What happens when you lower pricing? If you're going to keep your doors open, you've got to make the beer cheaper. It's just the reality. And what's a way to save money? Save time. You take less time in your brewing cycle. So you go from, I don't know, let's say it was 21 days now to 19 days, and 19 days now to 17 days.
And if the IBU changed and you less hops. Okay.
And the hops are very expensive.
Right. Got it.
And also less malt. I mean, maybe the beer got just a little bit lighter in color. Maybe it went from 5.2% ABV to 5.5% ABV. And these are incremental challenges like the proverbial boiling fog that nobody notices. And you have to look at the historical brewing data to be able to parse this out. So it used to be that German Pils as a style was distinctly bitter.
Got it.
Today, it's quite soft.
Okay. Yeah. And
if you want a distinctly bitter German-style Pils, I recommend you go to a small brewery here in the United States that specializes in making those styles of beer. And they're wonderful. And then you're like Uda
Pils.
Pardon?
Like Uda Pils.
Like Uda Pils is a great example in Minneapolis. And they're, Victory Brewing with their Prima Pills, which has been around now for several decades. So that's a revival. So just as American craft brewers revived and expanded upon the Indy Pale Ale style, is a very notable example from what had been the historical British style to then its watering down and pandering and cheapening and everything over many, many generations to be what it was 20 years ago in the UK. And the IPA would be unrecognizable. We'd be like, what is this? It's, 3.2%, and it's, lightly malty. And that would have been about it.
And like all these observations, did you know this stuff before, or did these come because you're like, what's going on? Why are we not being received?
I knew it before.
Okay.
I knew it before, although I can't tell you what pieces of actual data I picked up along the way.
Yeah.
But what I didn't know beforehand, and it would have actually definitely colored my actions. And I just, because I'm a romantic, I just go in rosy, a little bit too rosy. I thought Germans cared about beer.
Or were ready to.
Yeah. But there's such an ensconcement in that old style thinking, no, it's the best because it's German, and therefore it's the best. And it's just like the old, you will easily find Americans today with 9,500 breweries plus in the United States. And, I encountered somebody just a couple of days ago. You know what's wrong with American beer? I went to UK and to England, and beer is so good there because they don't pasteurize. And there you can taste it. It's live. It's fresh beer. It's unpasteurized. And I'm like, so what's wrong with American beer? Oh yeah, it's all dead and it's industrialized. And I'm like, there's 9,500 plus breweries in the United States. Yeah. The ones you're talking about are the ones with advertising, TV commercials.
Sure.
Don't buy the beer of the TV commercials in the UK.
Right.
Don't buy the beer of the TV commercials in the US. And your chances are going to be a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, I've had people ask me, when I'm going off and doing this brewery tour, they're like, what brewery makes the best beer? I'm like, I don't even know. What's the measurement for that?
Yeah.
I don't even understand that. It's like across the board. I'm like, first of all, they help each other out, right? So that's a very unique. And again, I would say, I would challenge, and I have, for people to name me another industry that is at all like the craft beer industry where you help each other out. Like when you had that conversation with AleSmith, it's like you're not doing that as a predator. You're coming in here and just like, putting them under the thumb. You're going in there going, hey, if we did this, maybe this would work. And then, or if someone runs out of hops, you're like, I got you, man. Like you give me next time or whatever it is. There isn't anything like that. I don't even know what's close.
And nearly no other countries in their craft brewing or specialty brewing industries are like that either.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Especially ones with old school industries, like say in Belgium, they are very protective. And the idea that you're going to a Belgian brewer and go to another Belgian brewer's brewery, they either won't go or they wouldn't let you in.
But I think if you went to like I've gone to some smaller craft breweries in Italy.
Yeah,
I think they're.
Oh hell yeah!
They're just basic. Like you feel like you're walking into an American craft, beer.
But with the Italian, all the Italian inflections. Like one of my best friends in the world is Giampaolo from Birrificio Lambrate, and so it's in Milan, and they opened up in '96 with us, and he's this biker guy, so rough around the edge. One of my favorite people. I love my brother. And he comes up to me just every time, I haven't seen him in a while, and he comes up and he starts kissing me, and oh my brother, I miss you, my friend, how are you? It's Italian stuff. So it's the overlay of the American craft brewer, like camaraderie, friendliness with the Italian, so they'd rather if you sink and look.
It's a lot.
Here I got this, ostensibly kind of scary looking guy who I love like a brother, kind of kissing me now. Okay, I'm gonna roll.
You described the look of every craft brewer. I mean, and the big.
Have I looked at it? By the way, yes.
So if people want to know the full story, you had told me about it's on YouTube, yes? Or no, Amazon. Was it Beer? What is it?
Yeah, it's on. You can watch on Prime.
On Amazon Prime. Okay.
A documentary was made, filmed called "The Beer Jesus from America,"
and it talks about I mean, it shows.
It follows the story.
It follows the story.
The
Okay.
documentary filmmaker we encountered each other right at the very beginning of the process of conceptualizing Stone Berlin.
Mm-hmm.
So before we lifted a finger on the facility, he started filming. And he caught this moment where I was standing on a barrel at a pre sort of fest. We had a Berlin beer fest. We hosted it at our as of yet unmodified buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And I stood on a barrel and I had a piece of cardboard in my hand that was sort of, I guess, tablet shaped just by accident. I'd written a couple of notes what I was going to, and I stood up there out of this big round window in the background, and somebody caught a photo with a round window making it look a little halo-ish, and just me with me as a crowd is there, and it was just kind of this perfect photo. So anyways, I got pejoratively dubbed by their Berliner Courier, their daily rag in Berlin, just a normal, not beer, but just normal news, I guess, or tabloid. Der Bier Jesus aus Amerika, the beer Jesus from America.
Yeah.
And
by the way, there's worse things to be called.
yeah, but they were making fun of me.
Okay.
Because in the subtext, and I don't remember all of the art, it was like, this guy is going to come teach us Germans about beer.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And the first person that would chime in is some of there were a small handful of existing craft brewers in Berlin, and they were like, "Hell yeah, we need this.
Right.
This is what our industry, because they have they're German born, German owned, everything, but they were having a hard time convincing, just like we had a hard time convincing Americans to drink." Craft beer in the early days.
Right.
They would wrinkle the face. They call it foo-foo beer, called it, all these pejorative names and dismissive. There were TV commercials in the United States, dismissive of craft beer back in the day.
Wow.
Anheuser-Busch put out one where, what is that, a pumpernickel porter, and they poured it in like chunks of pumpernickel bread in the, pitcher as a poured into a glass. And really, I mean,
it's so mean. It's so mean. Everyone's jerks.
It's just because they were trying to be protective of and say, no, our industrial, stuff.
But isn't that just so like macro, micro, you know what I mean? Like anti-craft, like, wow, the way that you're going to blow out my candle to make yours burn brighter. That's just not the way the craft brewing industry works. So this documentary, and I haven't seen it yet, but I do want to watch it. It follows you from the beginning until, I guess, the end.
Oh yeah,
okay,
all the way through. And I tell you, I will always be proud of what we did. I can look back and see the litany of mistakes and misconceptions, and just how I could have done it better. Starting smaller would have been.
I was just going to say that
smaller.
The way that you started when you started Stone, selling out. Make a little more, sell out. Make a little more, sell out. Then figure out, then create demand and all that kind of stuff. You had the benefit of time back then and youth and,
And I got so caught up in the cult of craft beer, which was worldwide. And I was feeling like this was a worldwide wave and phenomena. But the chance, Germany was the wrong place to do it because of that price pressure. Sure, craft beer, as we know in the United States, you pay more for it.
Yeah.
But it's the delta was even larger because here's the thing. There is undeniable that German industrial beer is superior to, in my opinion, American industrial beer. My only question is, why are we talking about industrial beer at all?
Yeah.
Who wants to drink industrial beer? So people, still fight me. I probably don't have to walk down the sidewalk in this, you call it residential neighborhood you live in, for more than 5 minutes to run into somebody who would fight me to the death practically over the idea that German beer is better than any American beer could ever be. There's still so many people with that conception.
Okay, yeah. Well,
I never drink American beer. I will only drink imported German beer.
Yeah.
That's how, that's the real stuff.
I don't know. Because I don't know if I agree with that, only because I feel like the education that has come along with the birth of and the continued growth. I mean, there's ups and downs, but of the craft brewing industry, it's like this education has been part of it, right?
Did you just say educate? By the way, did you happen to notice the last presidential election? Now, please repeat this whole concept about education again.
I
just to recap.
I pretend that didn't even happen, so that's easy for me. Yeah. How do you even find out that living in your tiny little village in Hawaii?
That's true.
So you can tune it out.
Now, with maybe a little less partisan approach here, the idea of educating the American public on it, or the public, and I don't have to be pejorative with Americans, the public on anything. What do I know about so many categories of stuff out there in the world? I know Jack, right? I know a lot about, some small things, but we know Dunning-Kruger. You can Dunning-Kruger yourself, right off the bat. In fact, that's how it happens. Dunning-Kruger. The Dunning-Kruger effect is the name for when the fact, and this is, studied, when you know nothing, you know nothing. You learn a little bit, you think you know everything. You learn a little bit, you realize how little you know. You become a PhD doctorate, and that's when you say, I don't have a clue.
Right. Yeah.
And it's all the people that do your own research, people, that they are falling into the Dunning-Kruger trap. They learn a little bit about something and they expand it. So it's like looking through a peephole in a door and expanding it to the full view outside without actually ever stepping outside and going out into that world. You think, oh no, I know what it looks like, and that's Dunning. That's
I did. Oh, when I was young, I knew everything.
We can all do it.
Yeah,
we can all do it. You learn that little bit of that little thing. And it's like, I remember when I was a kid, I thought I was so smart, and my mother asked me how dinner was, and I said it tasted like feces. And because I had just learned the word, and I was pretty damn certain that I was the only one at that dinner table that knew what that word meant, because I was so goddamn smart.
Yep.
And here at my, at 12 or whatever it was. Well, let me just tell you, it didn't go well.
Yeah. I could imagine. And by the way, I say this at least once a week. The older I get, the less I know. Exactly. That's just what it is. So I guess that's the same thing. Yeah.
Because it's the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
This is my last question, and then before we go back to the music, but have you written a book about your experiences in that we've talked about, this whole beer journey?
I have not.
Okay.
And I don't plan to.
Why is that?
Well, it's like pulling teeth. Writing is like pulling teeth for me. I'd much rather give.
Sorry, this is someone who just created something massive. Is it too painful to go to look in your rear view mirror? Is that what it is?
I'd say it's no. I don't mind. I can talk about it, no problem. I am very, very able to look at it very sober and just recognize, and yes, I said that. I felt that. I did that, and turned out that I was stupid. I was wrong, or ended up, whatever. I'd still like to think that I left craft beer better than I found it.
I don't. If anyone challenges that, they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But because I'm right now I'm writing a book. I guess you'd call it a memoir, but I'm writing this book about my whole experiences. You'll have a part in it. But especially after the revelation I had in our experience today. But it's good. It's also a little sad, because when you look back, everything that you're writing about is in the past, and it goes farther and farther back, and you're just like, man, of course I did dumb things and made mistakes, but I also made some very good decisions, and I did good things.
Yeah.
But it's just I miss it, What's that?
I did enjoy by.
Yeah.
That was my idea.
Yeah.
I love taking full credit for that, because I just think that.
Wait, for what is it?
Enjoy by. The Stone Enjoy by IPA.
Oh, wow.
Concept. That
okay. Yeah.
But anyways, not to get too far out. Yeah, I actually felt like if I had a really good idea twice a year, that you can do a lot with that.
That's, by the way, that's if I have a killer joke once a year.
Yeah.
I'm probably not working hard enough, but
yeah.
But there's my opinions of it. Okay, so let's let's sum this up for people so that people know what they're going to find.
The best entry point is simply listen to a few of the tunes. I think for me, they're great for working out. Like when I go for a run, just pop them in, nice thumping tunes. So I created and I co-wrote all of the music with my good friend Kerry Kelly. He's of Aces and Nails fame, and he's a veteran guitar player. In fact, his day gig is musician. Played with Alice Cooper for 7 years. He played with Slash for 5 years.
After I interviewed you,
yeah,
2 days later I was talking to him.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. Kerry Kelly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean we still talk. Yeah,
one of the best dudes on the planet.
Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah, Aces and Nails. Yeah.
So he and I wrote and recorded the music together.
Oh, wow.
He is a vocalist on probably 50% of it, maybe a little bit more. I'm vocalist, and also then, believe it or not, my wife Sarah is a vocalist because there's a female character of the band.
Okay.
And so she vocalizes for that. If you're thinking she's only in the band because she's my wife, that is absolutely true.
Yes.
Because she would have never said yes otherwise.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You listen to it, she's by far the best.
That's awesome.
By far the superior vocalist.
Now, I did hear one of the tracks. But again, I want to hear these on a record, and of course, watch the videos. But like, I thought what I was going to hear was more, and maybe it's my understanding of the word metal. Because and correct me if I'm wrong, and I may be completely off base here, but it's more similar to like, it's not like Pantera, it's more like Rush.
Well, yeah, it's not quite as bath rocky as Rush, but and there's a lot of variation throughout the double album. But it's what you would think of metal as in the early '80s. Right. Definitely some modern stuff, in there, but it's not just all scream, rage, vocals.
Right. Yes, exactly. And so I thought maybe when I saw this, it's not. So it is more of an, I guess, for lack of a better term, an homage to the earlier metal.
That's where we came from.
Yeah,
and that's where Skyden, the main character, actually had his primary exposure to metal. I mean, it's all of a time.
Like heavy metal, the movie wasn't. We wouldn't consider that like heavy metal today. I don't think. Okay, got it.
But but still, it was because I'm not too caught up in the terminology. This that. I mean, there's a lot of heavy stuff on here, and there's some things that I wouldn't call light by any stretch. But there are some things you could argue are sort of more in the hard rock category. On and bridge into the hard rock, and there's stuff that's just pure metal, it's just all cranking and it got me in with my vocals going.
So I can listen to it on Spotify.
Yeah.
Apple Music.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, then that's what I'm gonna do. I wonder if I should have left these in the plastic. Am I gonna have you sign these? Is that add value or take value away?
It's well, when they're not with you at all,
I'm gonna have you sign it.
This gives it no value or no value. Currently, and tell people listen to this podcast. In which case, now the value is going to tick up.
That's true. Actually, this particular album, this pile right here, I'm not letting go of it. But yes, exactly.
Right.
Okay.
I would just encourage. Tune it in, Metal Warrior. Just tune it in. Listen, all you got to do, because nobody ever looked at me and go, "I want to." Thinks to themselves, "I want to listen to that guy's music."
I think we covered. So look, I mean, who even knew that was going on in your brain? I think we learned a lot about you, your past, who you are, and I think we've set people up to want to go down this path. And there's a lot of people that are going to go. There's going to be probably a bunch of looky-loos. They're going to be, craft beer people who want to see what it is that you're capable of. If you can do this half as well as what you did there, I think this is something to be,
I'm
given time to. So good.
I'm super proud of it.
How long did you work on it for?
That's about 3 years worth of work with and the graphic novel series. So the graphic novels are hitting stores early this year.
Okay.
And we got a 9 novel series that's going to be dropping over 2 years.
Okay.
We're distributed with Z2 Comics. Z2 does all the metal, rock and roll, like graphic novel stuff. Okay. They're doing the thing with Bruce Dickinson right now with his Mandrake project, and they got the Judas Priest. I mean, they just work with, and they wanted to work with us. It was really incredible.
And you're happy. Have you always been happy?
No, I'm not happy. I can turn it on in
Good.
microphone.
Good. I would. Good. I don't want that. I don't want to hear that you're happy and you're satisfied and you're. You know what you are? You're Thanos. So you're Thanos. You're living on your farm, in Hana.
So after I've killed half the people of the earth,
exactly. And no, after you've wreaked havoc. No, that's the joke. Is you're not ready. That's where you are. If I see you right with this long beard and you're on your farm in Hawaii and you're just walking along with a cat and picking from your orchard, you're like, yeah, I can look like this guy. Wow, he did it. And now he's calmed down.
Out to pasture?
Yeah, out to. Guess that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So you're not Thanos. You still have havoc to wreak.
Yeah, I'm the eternal angry young man.
Okay, dare we say the arrogant bastard? I'll say it. You don't have to. Awesome, brother. This was great.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got to do this.